All right, I think I am live here. We are about 3 minutes from getting started, but I just wanted to start to make sure everything was rocking and rolling, everything was working, and it looks like it is working. This is pretty good. This is my first time doing a live stream, so I want to see. Wonder for those that have done these before, is this automatically recording so that I have like a copy of this afterwards? I don't know, maybe. But we're just going to hang out for a few minutes till we have the official kickoff. Everybody, hope everyone's doing well. Hope everybody's. How do I? I should have some stats or something of how many people are here or something like that. I don't know. Oh, hey, thanks, Bram. Saying happy birthday. You're the first one. Fantastic. So it's working. So you can hear me, I assume. So this is all good news. Hey, Dave and Bernard. Nice. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for coming on. We're getting started in 2 minutes. This is all exciting. Who here has done a live stream before on YouTube? Sounds good. Thank you. Perfect. Joseph, thanks so much for the happy birthday. That's so nice. I can see the chats. Do I see or do I even care? Oh, there it is. Up on the top. It's in white, but I see it. Currently 6 people on. 3 people have thumbed it up. Never have. Okay, cool. Thanks for the happy birthday. That's awesome. Yeah, what a wild coincidence, right? Having a birthday right near the end of this campaign. That's cool. It's a good birthday. We're gonna start in a minute. 1 minute. We'll have the official start. We'll have a nice. Get all your questions ready. I have some things I have to go through for sure, but if you have questions, that will help and make this probably more entertaining if we have some questions. So get them ready. Welcome. Starting in less than a minute. I'm going to have a nice swig of my Diet Cola. No rum in it yet. I'm still on work time, so this is we'll have the rum afterwards after this. Thanks, Scott, for that happy birthday. I appreciate that. And we're starting. All right, welcome everybody to the AMA Ask Me Anything live stream with me, Jay Cormier. Appreciate you coming on. This literally is an Ask Me Anything, so in the chat section, feel free to type in any questions. And I'll answer as many as I can in the time that we have. I'll probably do this for an hour until people get bored of me. We'll see. So first off, who am I? My name is Jay Cormier. I am a game designer, and I've designed a bunch of games. Most of them have been with Sen Feng Lim. He also designed this game called Mind Management that's on Kickstarter right now, which is maybe how some of you know that to come here. There's a bunch of games that I've designed that are behind me. Belfort was the first game that Sen and I signed. Junkyard's one of our biggest ones. Rock, Paper, Wizard and its expansion, Fistful of Monsters, was also designed with Josh Capel. We did a Godfather game, a game called Tortuga. Akrotiri said and I did. Zombie Slam, Train of Thought, Orphan Black. Some more up here you can't see. Men in Black, Gin, but wait, there's more. And then I also designed In the Hall of the Mountain King with Graham Johns. And Draw Your Own Conclusion was designed just by me. Just by me. I did it all by myself. So hello, that's who I am real quick. And now I'm a publisher, so that's pretty cool. And I can get into the story about how I became that if for those that are interested. There have been some interviews recently with me, so maybe I don't need to go into that, but we can. Dave is saying, but wait, there's more is awesome. I agree that, but wait, there's more is awesome. You can't see it in the shot, so let me just bring it down. Oh, and then that fell down. All right, but wait, there's more. This is a game that's now out of print, and we're trying to find another partner to bring it back into print. And it's one of these kind of pitching games, which may or may not be fully in favor anymore. I'm not sure, but we had a blast making it, and it is still our funniest game we've ever made. So yes, Sarah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the happy birthday. Yeah, in a while to have a birthday right near the end of this campaign. Not fully planned to be like that. Last year I ran the the Fail Faster playtesting journal campaign on Kickstarter. So those that don't know this was the first thing I ever did on Kickstarter as a as a publisher, I guess, but not a board game publisher, was this journal. And it's a journal that helps game designers, keep track of their playtesting notes and thoughts, and keeps kind of everything in track. And I did really well on Kickstarter. It's now for sale on the Game Crafter, once the Game Crafter is back up and running. What a world we live in right now. So let's talk about what? Let's talk about all the different things. Mind management. That's why a lot of people are here. Again, I want to make sure people know. Ask questions. Ask anything you'd like to know about me, about mind management, about Off the Page Games as a company. That'd be great. And Susie, thank you so much for coming. Happy birthday. Yeah, that's nice. And Sharon is here. Great. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for stopping by, Sharon. I'm saying that funny because she's my mom. So my mom's here. Hi, everybody. And Chris, thanks so much. What's coming soon? What's coming soon? Okay, that's great. See, there's the first question. So I'll pause any kind of story I have to answer questions. So as far as from a designer perspective, what's coming soon, Sen and I have a game called Scooby-Doo Escape from Haunted Mansion. So this is one of those escape room in a box, but you play as Scooby-Doo and the gang. So it's really cool. It's a different kind of escape room where it's very narrative and it feels like you're really living and controlling an actual Scooby-Doo episode. It's so cool because every character has their own narration guide. And so you read as Fred, you read as Daphne, all the characters, and you interact with the game elements and solve puzzles and whatnot. And it was so fun to write. It's one of my favorite cartoon shows growing up. So I loved it. And look at this, we got some more questions. So I'll go into the questions. I have some things I have to get out, but we'll get through some of those as we get through these questions. What did I do before game design? Well, I've been working actually at Best Buy for 23 years now. A lot of that was in the training department, and before that was in HR. So I did HR and training department stuff where in the training department, I was able to gamify a lot of our training elements. I actually one time did this humongous training event where we brought all these salespeople from across Canada to a live training event, but I gamified it and made it all Zelda themed, but not Zelda, but like a kind of a dungeony crawler type theme. So it was really awesome. People had to earn experience points by doing things and had to level up and had to fight boss monsters. And it was awesome. So games have kind of always permeate themselves into the things that I do. So thanks for that question. Joseph. Chris, what's coming soon was Scooby-Doo. Anything else coming soon that I should know about? Well, we also have Rock Paper Wizards right there. We kind of were asked to adapt that into WWE titles. So it's now WWE Headlock Paper Scissors instead of Rock Paper Wizard. And it's the same kind of core concept, but it's a totally different game. So it does kind of warrant having both because they do feel totally different, even though it's the same kind of system. So that's cool. Bernard said, yeah, for Fail Faster Notebook, good tool. Wondering how long did it take to design mind management? Yeah, mind management has been in a process for a long time. It's at least 4, if not 5 years ago when we first started designing it. And the thing was, we went through so many different what we call alpha versions where it just didn't work. We actually designed a game, a system, and we play tested and it didn't work. And we didn't feel compelled to continue on trying to develop that specific version because it didn't feel like mind management. And it wasn't until we came across this hidden movement as the game type, that we finally felt like this feels like mind management. Like when you're playing as the recruiter, the one person who's hiding behind a screen, you feel like you have psychic abilities because you're listening to them talk and you get to kind of manipulate how they think and talk based on your movement. It's pretty wild. Dave saying, how did you and Sen get connected with Matt Kint? And how did you decide on hidden movement as the core mechanic for my management? So I kind of half answered that, but Sen and I met Matt actually at Gen Con, of all places. Matt was just getting into board games in a serious way. And he was this kind of guy who went head over heels over board games. You know that moment if you're a board gamer where you just get introduced to this hobby and you're like, what is this world? And you get so excited, you start buying up all the games. He was that guy at Gen Con when we met him. And we were introduced to him through who was it? Brian Hurt and Cullen Bunn, who did Sixth Gun. We met through them, and we're talking about potentially turning that comic into a board game. Never happened. But while we were there, they're like, "Oh, you should meet Matt. He's here." And I'm like, "Matt who?" And they're like, "Matt Kint." I'm like, "Oh, Matt Kint. Oh, I love Matt Kint." And I probably should have taken it down, but I have a picture of that he drew for me up there, and another one around here that I have in my office of his art. So I'm a big fan of his before I even met him. And then when we met, he was super happy because he played our game Akutiri and loved it. And I think he still calls it his favorite 2-player game. And so we kind of just talked and played games at Gen Con. And then he's like, oh, it'd be so cool to get a game about mind management. And Sen and I were like, can we do that? We'd love to do that. And he's like, yeah. And so it was purely a handshake type of deal. And I don't even think there was officially a handshake where it's like, yeah, we'll do it. And so that was kind of the genesis of how we started. So cool. Thanks for the question, Dave. Cool use of the IP. Perfect. Yes. Sarah says, as an aspiring game designer, I'd be interested in knowing what made you decide to create your own publishing company rather than going with an existing publishing company. That's a great question, Sarah, because we didn't. We actually did go with an existing publishing company. We pitched this game to a bunch of publishers, and it got signed. We were like, yay, it's coming out. We got signed. And we just sat back and waited for that fat board game money to come start rolling in. Yeah, there's no such thing. And so the unfortunate thing is that publisher went under. They ceased to be. And so we got the rights back to it, and we had a meeting with Matt, Sen, and I, and we chatted, and we're like, what do we do now? Do we have to now pitch it to publishers? Who did we pitch to before? Should we just reach out to them and say, hey, do you remember this game? Are you interested in it? And it was Matt that said, well, why don't we just do it ourselves? He's like, I'll do all the art. He goes, I also have a graphic design background, which I wasn't aware of. I'm like, oh, and you guys publish it. So then it was up to Sen and I. I'm like, do we want to publish this ourselves? And it was funny because for the longest time, anyone's ever asked us about game design, we were like, we don't want to publish. It's like, let the publishers do that. We just like designing games. But for the last 3 years or so, I've actually been able to move down to part-time at my job at Best Buy, and I get 2 days off a week to work on board game stuff. And so I thought, well, I should have a bit of time now that I could allot to maybe running this company. And so I kind of proposed it to Sen, saying, what if I ran the company and just, treated you as the designer in this normal sense? And I did it. And he's like, yeah, that'd be fine, because Sen's got a full-time job as well. So he's like, yeah, that'd be totally cool. And I'm like, great. Then it was all about like, well, what do I call myself? So I kind of like companies, especially board game companies, that have a purpose, a mission, that you can really feel it, their mission and purpose. Like you think of somebody like Restoration Games. They have a purpose and a mission. And even from the title Restoration, exactly what they're all about. They're all about restoring games from yesteryear, from the 80s and earlier, and rebuilding them, making them new with newer mechanics. And it's great once like, oh, you know what they're all about. And I find there's a lot of publishers out there now, they don't really have a solid mission. It's just like, we want to make cool games. I'm like, okay. So mine is, I'm going to be making games, board games or card games, whatever, off of creator-owned comic books. I thought that was a really cool niche. And selfishly, it gives me an opportunity to talk to a lot of my heroes and idols that I look up to in the comic book world. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Thanks for the question. So that was Sarah. So hopefully that answered your question. And then architectural foam panels and columns says, hey, hope everyone is healthy. Yeah, great. Thanks. Zoinks, that game sounds amazing. Oh, talking about the Scooby-Doo one. Yeah, no kidding. It was so fun to write all the Zoinks and the Jinkies and everything. It was great. Bram says, have you done something with an app before? I really like the idea of playing versus AI along with others. Will it definitely not be included if we don't reach the stretch goal? Good question. So have I done anything with an app? Yes. This game right here is called Zombie Slam, and it has app integration. And it's actually this app developer who did this, who is on board, and I got a quote from to do the app for mind management. Now this one is a bit more procedural. It's just kind of processing the stuff, whereas the mind management one is going to have AI, artificial intelligence, because you'll be playing against the mind management, the recruiter player. So that he's excited to do it. That's why he's offering to do it, because he's like, that sounds really fun to do, and he wants it to happen. I guess I won't say it won't happen if it doesn't, but I kind of need it to hit that much funding. The 175,000 Canadian is the target, the goal for us to unlock the stretch goal. But I kind of need that to pay for the app. You know what I mean? So hopefully, I'm pretty confident we'll hit there. I'm that number, because I know it looks like we're still a ways away. We only have about 5 days left to go to get to 175, and we're currently at 138 or 139 right now, 1,000. So I think because of those last 48 hours, we have over 6,500 people that have clicked the remind me button. And we're only at 8% conversion of that, for those that understand what I'm saying about talking about this stuff. And so I'm hoping that we will get there. I'm confident that we'll get there. But feel free to keep sharing and talking about the campaign to help it grow. Okay, so that was Bram, and okay, super cool. Lagging. I'm lagging bad. Is this going to be published after it's over? Yes, I'll if this is saving, and this is my first time doing a live stream, so I don't really know the whole process. So hopefully it's just recording, and I'll get this if anybody knows, because otherwise I didn't press anything else to record. So hopefully it is. Absolutely agree. The theme is so strong in this game. Yes, it's very strong. That was our main thing about making mind management a game. Show you the box cover here. Just really integrating the theme, and Matt is all on board with this. If you know Matt Kint's work, he is all about taking advantage of the medium that he's in. And so comics, he does that all the time. And he's now starting to do that as he writes scripts for TV shows. Did you know that he's writing a TV script for this right now? Did you know that? That's pretty cool. Let alone writing scripts for other properties that he's working on. So he's super busy. But in the comic book world, he's taking advantage of, there's lots of little cool secret things that I haven't seen in any other game. I can't wait for people to just get this, is what I'm saying. It's gonna be amazing. Bram says, yeah, I got the comics for my birthday on March 14th. Really great comic. Then bought the Kickstarter board game. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Great. So you read the comic and then gotten onto that's great. Curious how production and distribution may be affected by the COVID-19. And also happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you for the birthday. Fortunately, China, of all the places in the world, is actually kind of back on track. Everyone's back to work, and they're not as impacted by this as the rest of us. So currently, if your game was in production right now and trying to ship and all the stuff, you were affected by it. But going forward, I won't be affected by the production or the distribution of it. But who's to know how it's going to impact retail stores as they start to hopefully try to reopen once this we weather through this storm and figure out what that's happening. Because I do not want any of these game stores to close, obviously. So hopefully we can all get through this. Bram says, is this the most ambitious board game you've ever made? It really is, because of the fact, if you don't know much about it, if you haven't really experienced much about what we're talking about with this game, not only is it a hidden movement game, but we've introduced something called the shift system, which has all of these sealed packages inside the game, kind of like a legacy game, but we're not calling it legacy. We're calling it a shift system because nothing's ever destroyed. Nothing's permanently changed. There's no stickers being covered or something. So nothing's been permanently changed, but because it's a one versus many, when you lose as a side, one of the sides, you get to open a package. And in that package, you get all these new components, these extra materials to help you in the next game. Not only that, but comic book lovers and Matt Kint lovers are going to love it, because every one of these shift packages comes with a mini comic that's written and illustrated by Matt Kint that helps give some backstory and theme to what's in that package. So to me, it's definitely the biggest game that we've ever made. And of course, it's the first game I'm publishing. So a lot of people say you should publish a small game first and then move on to a bigger game. But and other people say just publish whatever you're passionate about. And I couldn't be more passionate about this game. And at least I have some experience with kickstarting and fulfilling and distribution with kickstarting my Fail Faster journal last year. So I have a bit of experience there, fortunately. All right, moving on. I was giggling looking at the photo when waiting for this to start. I totally forgot you and Sen did Belfort. I love Belfort and can't wait for the Kickstarter stuff coming. Yeah, that's right. That's another thing we have coming is the Belfort had a Kickstarter last year, and that should be coming soon. I think very well. Now, who knows with all the timing and everything, but it should be coming soon, where it's the reprint of the game Belfort plus the reprint of the expansion, which was kind of sold out almost immediately when it got made, which I love the expansion. It's called, that's the thing that fell on the ground. It is probably one of my favorite titles of an expansion. It's called Belfort, the expansion. Yeah, it's great. It's because you're expanding your properties and whatnot. It's hilarious. But then we also came up with a new expansion for Belfort in this one called Expansion Her Majesty's Civil Service, which, if you know much about Belfort, it's kind of has these anachronisms about red tape and building in a fantasy kind of setting. I think it's pretty hilarious. So yeah, that stuff's coming. Thank you very much, Susie. Bram, what does the publisher do versus the board game designer? Does he make sure the parts will get printed center? Yeah. So up till now, Sen and I were the designers. We would design the game, we would iterate on it, make the prototypes, play test the heck out of it. And when we got to a point where we're like, this game's great, we would then take it to publishers, probably at a convention, and pitch it. And then if they said, yay, this is great, they will maybe some of them will work with us and maybe develop it further, and we get to kind of get input on that, and might have to play test a few of the things that they're like, well, can we tweak this? Can we change that? And then after that, we would just be like, sit back and wait until it came out. Some publishers would include us and show us things like, hey, here's some art, here's some things that we're doing with the game, just more of an aside and FYI, which is really cool as a designer to, you know, get sneak peeks of the art and everything like that. And that's all we would do as a designer. But the publisher has to do so much more. It's been eye-opening to do this, and so much so that right when I started, made the decision to become a publisher. I actually started a YouTube series called How to Start a Board Game Company. And every week I did a new video about the things that I had to do in order to become a publisher. So check that out, because it's a lot of work, and there's tons of videos, and I interview a ton of people. There's a lot of work, but for me, it was all learning and fun and challenging and interesting. So I've enjoyed it. So far, I've enjoyed it. So we'll see how far we can make this last, this publishing company, because I didn't know if this is going to be the only game this company ever published, if it didn't do that well, or if it does well, which it is doing. Now I'm looking forward to what's next, what's happening. Okay, that was that. Joseph asks, what other comics are you into? Wow. I don't want to be too much on the Matt Kim bandwagon, but I love his new series called Bang. It's only 2 issues out right now, and it's awesome already. Can't wait to read more of that. My favorite comic of all time is Sandman. Super into that. I love that. I love the heck out of that. I have everything. I have all the single issues. I have the trade. Like, I just love that so much. Other top comics that I've enjoyed. I've liked. Now you put me on. I'm looking over at my comic book shelf right now and trying to remember. Like, there's just so many, but I'm trying to remember like what stands out. Scalped was amazing. I really like Jason Aaron's stuff. I've liked Conan for the longest time. I haven't read him recently, and I think Jim Zuma is doing that. So I should probably hop back on the bandwagon of that. Saga is amazing. I should probably actually, in one of my updates, just kind of do a list of here's like the top comics that I've enjoyed. Yeah. So good question. Maybe I should think more about that. Been following Matt's work since Pistol Whip. Not a big gamer, but this game looks fantastic. First time I've backed something on Kickstarter. Oh, thanks so much for doing that. Architectural foam panels and columns, whatever your name is. That's great. Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you for doing that. Kickstarter can seem a little confusing if you've never done it before, but it's effectively a pre-order system, but nobody likes to call it that. It's basically you go on Kickstarter and somebody's offering something, usually something creative, and they usually don't have enough money to do it on their own, so they need help from a community. And theoretically, it's kind of like you're an investor. You're investing money into the company to help make it happen. And what do you get out of it? Well, instead of just being listed as an investor and maybe a percentage off the back end like investors would get, you get a copy of the game. And so you can usually pledge at a different reward levels. Like, for example, in my game, we have the retail version of the game, which I think is 64 Canadian, and the deluxe version, which is 89 Canadian dollars, and you get all these deluxified components. So anyways, thank you so much. Sarah can't, we can't wait either. Great. Brent says, love Matt and the comic. Perfect. I'm eager to see the final product. Me too. And aside from discovering that the hidden movement mechanic fit the source material, what were some big aha moments while making the game? One of the biggest, that's a great question. Thanks so much, Brent. One of the biggest aha moments was something about the difficulty creep that we experienced. So first, 2 things I'll say. One, when making a hidden movement game or any kind of deduction game, you have such a very fine sliver of area in which the game is fun. And what I mean by that is that if you give players too much information, you go over here and players just know the answer, and it's not fun. And it's like, well, you're obviously here. And if you go this far, this way, on this direction, where they don't have enough information, then they feel like they're floundering. They're like, I have no idea where you are. I don't know. This is just, everything's guessing. I don't know. And it's not fun either. So deduction games have this very small area to work in. And so there was an aha moment there where we realized that information is a variable in design, that you can use information like a resource. Like sometimes in games, like, hey, you get 1 pink cube if you do this. Well, in our game, everything was like, this is a cool ability. How can we give the other side information? Oh, okay. Like, for example, having the characters have the player playing the recruiter, the secret player, they get these mind slip tokens that allows them to do a secret jump or special move once in the game. But when it started, we actually gave that player 3 of these tokens, and then 3 was way too powerful. We reduced it to 2, and we're like, even 2 is pretty powerful to have in a game. But then we figured out, well, maybe we can put a cost to using that second one, and we're trying to figure out how can we put a cost to it. And eventually, you're like, well, what if at the beginning you played the mind slip token on the board somewhere, and you could only use that second mind slip token if you ever cross over that. And so by picking it up, the information you're giving the other players is at one point in the game you were on that space. That's information, and that aha moment was fantastic. And I think the other aha moment was more once I started getting into being a publisher and trying to figure out how players in a deduction game can retain and track information. It was a really tough challenge because the game has this really cool board, and it has a secret board. This is a sample of the board. This is the secret board that the recruiter uses. It's shiny because it's dry erase, and that's great for the recruiter. But everybody else who's looking on the big board, we went through all these different ways of like how to track the information. We said, well, what if one person is their ability is they can take notes, and that didn't work at all because one person knew stuff or kept track of stuff, but they didn't even have any guidance of what to keep track of. So then we tried, well, what if we gave them per round? Here's their move. Here's and kind of formatted it to kind of guide them on what to take, but it still wasn't interesting. Then we said, what if we gave them another one of these, and then they could track what they thought, write whatever they wanted to. And it was almost okay, but still only one person could see it, and the other 3 people over here, they're like trying to look over, what did you write there? Like it was disengaging, so it didn't work. And so it was funny because as a designer, Sen and I literally would just say, well, that's something for the publisher to worry about. We would literally say that, like, the game works and stuff like that, we'll let them just figure that out. So then I became the publisher, and then it was like, okay, now I got to figure this out. And I went through many different ideas of tokens and all these different numbers on them, and it wasn't working. It wasn't until I literally don't remember the transition from a what if to a, oh, this, how about this? But eventually I thought about, well, what if the tokens you could write on the tokens instead of having permanently numbered 1, 2, 3, because that's what it was before. They'd have very specific numbers on the tokens. What if you could just write on them? And I'm like, maybe. And eventually that was the solution. That was one of the huge aha moments in the game design and publishing of the game, is having dry erase tokens, because you get so much more information. If you've ever played any kind of deduction game, usually when you get a miss, there's still information you're getting in that. And it's huge in mind management because you're asking, hey, have you ever been to like this book? Have you ever been to any spot that has a bookstore? And the mind management recruiter character player says no, yes. Then you get to put, they have to put a token on the specific space that has a bookstore that they've been on. So you know they've been to that spot. That seems like a great information. But if they say no, that seems like, oh, I got a miss. Too bad. No, it's actually fantastic because then you get to put 5 tokens on the board saying they haven't been here, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's up here. It's already got a scribble on it. That's why. 5 here, and up to whatever turn it is. Say it's turn 9. You see, from 1 to 9, they've never been on these 5 spots at all. And as you get more no's and some yeses, it actually, you can see the path that they took. It's wild. That was a huge aha moment. So fantastic question. Okay, so back up here. We've got a lot of questions coming in. Great. Thank you for that question. What does a day week look like as a game designer? Hey, that's a great question. It is, for me, because I have had some success, have a bunch of games published. I'm always working on 4 to 7 projects at a time at various states, working on expansions to games that are already out, or maybe quickly designing a prototype for a new alpha game that I want to try out, or iterating on the last playtest I did last week. Every week I have a playtest group that I get together with other designers in my community, and we all playtest each other's games. It's awesome. Playtesting is the bottleneck of game design. You want to playtest as much as possible because that's where you get to learn about how what works and what's fun and whatnot. And so I'm so excited after coming back from my playtest night because I get all this new information of like, this didn't work, but this could be better if we did it this way. And I can't wait. I want to change my prototype up and playtest again as soon as possible, which I have to wait a whole week, which I know for some designers is like, you get playtest every week. That's fantastic. I would love to playtest even more if I had the time to do so. So hopefully soon I will be able to. Other than that, it's It's a lot of like on the computer making prototypes, and then a lot of cutting and a lot of putting things in sleeves and taking things out of sleeves. It's a lot of that as a designer. And then the playtesting is like, that's the show. That's the big show. That's the fun part for sure. I like it all though. I like all of it, except for writing rules. I'm not very good at writing rules, and I don't like doing it. Dave says, does Off the Page Games have other titles of development based on other comics yet? What comics out there do you think would make good games? Oof. So the answer quickly is no, that there's nothing in development. There are things that are being chatted about, and I'm talking to some people about who has the rights, because I don't want to work with like Marvel or DC, because it's just, I don't want to work with a corporation yet. Maybe one day, who knows? But I want to work with creators. I want to work with the people that are passionate about this. This game management, working with Matt Kint, the creator of the world, is 10 times better than I could have imagined. That what he's added to this is unbelievable to me. As opposed to if I just literally hired an artist and told the artist exactly what I wanted, it would be 1/10 of how awesome it is right now. So I want to keep doing that. I want to work with other creators. And so I don't have anything specifically lined up. Yeah, I don't even say anything out loud, because I've been talking to some creators. Maybe there's something coming. I hope. There's even a few other designs that I have in my pocket that I'm like, maybe that could be set in this world, and maybe I could alter it. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see. So good question. I wish I had more information. Up till I'm not in a race or in a rush to do anything with Off the Page Games. So it's not like I have to have 3 games before the end of the year or something like that. The main purpose and goal was focus on mind management. I don't want to get diluted by splitting my time away from this yet, because I'm learning. So this is a whole learning year of trying to figure out how to do all this stuff in the best way possible and keep the focus on mind management as much as possible. Sarah says, as a designer, do you feel pressure to have a completely new take on a mechanic in the game you were designing? And do you think it's necessary to have a completely new mechanic? I think it's almost impossible to have a completely new mechanic, because it feels like everything's been done. But new takes on mechanics, that is huge. And I do feel, I'm not sure if the word is pressure is right, because that sounds almost negative. Like I'm like daunted by it. It's the opposite. I'm motivated by it. I'm inspired by it. And I want to ensure that all games I'm involved with have a new take in some way on how something is done. Or it does something different or add something new that is like, well, this hasn't been done this way before. I don't like just a mishmash of existing mechanics and just done in a different way. I want it done in a new way, if possible, if that makes any sense. I think that's makes it more marketable, and it makes it stand out more, either as a designer when you're pitching it to a publisher, or now as a publisher when you're publishing it. You want it to be able to have some table presence, or have some people turn their heads when they're reviewing it, because this has got something different to it. That's what I aspire to. I think that's smart. If you're a designer, if you can try to make sure your games stand out because there's something new to it, component wise, mechanic wise, a new take, a new way of doing it, I think that'd be huge. Yeah, that's my advice. I've often played too many games, and sometimes my own prototypes with other designers, where the game works, it's balanced, everything's fine working, but it doesn't add anything new to the game world. And so it's like, yeah, it works, it's fine, it's balanced, but it's got a certain amount of fun to it, but is it worth existing? And it's a hard question to ask yourself, especially when you spend a lot of time, or the other designers spend a lot of time making it. And you're like, it's cool, but is there anything you do to make it stand out even more? Is my question often to some people. Monica asks, this is my first Kickstarter project. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And my first streaming. It's my first streaming too. And my first Kickstarter as a publisher. So yeah, we're in the same boat. My question is, when you started the campaign, and what about the end day? Is it not possible to get more time? Yeah, you know what? Because of the COVID thing, they have offered creators more time if they wanted to, an extension of some sort. I didn't want more time though. It's a lot of work to do a Kickstarter. Most are only like 21 days nowadays. And I went for the full 30 days, which is a lot, but I think there's a little bit of an excuse, an allowance for first-time publishers to have the more time, because you need more time to kind of get the word out, and so people can hear about it, because it's harder to get your voice heard sometimes when you're the little guy. Yeah. Joseph says, I loved going over the board, finding hidden Easter eggs. Can't wait to scour everything when it comes. Yeah, there is a lot of Easter eggs, especially for the fans of the comic, but there's even more Easter eggs just as a gamer. I don't want to tell too much, but one thing that has been unlocked recently was there's a time token, and it just goes over. It's like a donut, and it goes over the which round it is, and you move it up every round. Great. But we added as a stretch goal, now it will come with a red filter in the middle, and that's fine. However, what that motivates Matt to do, and he's so excited to do this, he's going to hide a lot of information in all the components in the rule books, where if you use that red filter and put it over it, it'll reveal secret messages, secret images that are going to be pretty cool. So that kind of stuff is cool. On top of that, there's already many, how to say this without spoiling anything, there's many other hidden things in the game, which will lead to in-game bonuses. How do you say that? It's going to lead to an ability for you to actually add more content to your game without paying any more money, if that makes more sense. Actually, more content to your game. That's hidden in the game already. So if that's intriguing, hopefully that's intriguing. This is some new things I haven't seen any other publisher do, where you'll actually be able to deduce and figure out some things that are going on within the game and get new content for your game that actually have new rules and new changes to it. Is that exciting? That's pretty exciting. Okay, and Chris says, love that series, by the way. Eye-opening, appreciate the transparency. Cool. Maybe you're talking about the How to Start a Board Game Company YouTube series. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Transparency probably is. Thanks, Chris. All right, D-Day Book 7. What kind of thing will be included in the shift packages? Ooh, will there be any difference in the components included in the shift package between the deluxe and standard version? That's a great question, and it's on one of my lists of things I wanted to get out here, is the difference between the retail and deluxe when it comes to the shift. So the shift, one thing that will be the same in both and the retail and the deluxe will have a comic book. Great. That's fantastic. From Matt, that he wrote and illustrated, and it's awesome. I already seen 2 of them, and I love them. They're great. Other than that, there will be tokens or cards or in them. But anytime, if there's a new character of any kind, when we know there's at least one, because we got one as a stretch goal, that we got a new rogue agent. If all new rogue agents, for example, or any other character that might be in the game, in the deluxe will be those chunky wooden bits, whereas in the retail will just be the normal cardboard cutout standee type thing. So that's pretty much a big deal. And anytime there's any other token that that is already in the game, and if it comes with more of, for some reason, there'll be wooden versions in the deluxe and cardboard in the retail, without giving too much away. So yeah, so it's kind of tricky. The deluxe is even a better value than what I can tell you, because it has more wooden components than just the ones listed on the page, on the Kickstarter page. So great question. Thank you for asking that. Chris says, could you elaborate on the shift system and whether you'll be using it in future games? That's kind of my goal. I want to wait and to see what the feedback is from the gaming community, but I really like the concept, and I hopefully want to keep trying to use the shift system in future games. So yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, I'd like to do that. The whole concept is the fact that it works really well for a one versus many game, because of the balancing aspect of the fact that whoever loses, they get a leg up in the next game. And if they lose again, well, they get another leg up. And eventually they're going to have so many powers and abilities that they're going to win. And then they'll start losing. And so it just kind of keeps balancing the game back and forth. And what's cool is that whoever lost, they get to open however many packages they want. Actually, if they have 4 available to them, they could use all 4, or they could use less. And the other side gets to open fewer packages. So it's always going to be balanced in that way. And it always makes the games different. And if you want to play it again from the beginning, afterwards, you can, and it's great. Nothing's destroyed. Everything's put back in their packages afterwards. So it's that's what's great about the shift system. Nothing's destroyed or changed or altered permanently at all. Bang 2 was great, Joseph says. It was so great. It was such a left turn already right from the start. I'm like, what are we talking about here? What's going on? That's the new comic from Matt Kint, for those that I didn't know. And Bang 2 was also super great because in it was an ad for a mind management board game. Yeah, so it's great having someone like Matt Kinn on board. He's like, hey, maybe I can get an ad in my new comic. I'm like, that'd be great. Please do. And Brent's like, Gaiman is literally royalty. He is, for sure. Sandman is not creator owned. That would be wild to have a game based on Sandman. I would feel probably very intimidated to do that, though, like to do it right, because it is such a royalty type thing. That's kind of why it took so long to get Mind Management done right, because it was, in my world, kind of like royalty. And the fact that we failed so many times in trying to find the right game to fit this IP. Brent said, Gaiman's A Study in Emerald is an incredible experience, whether it be the original short story, the comic, or the Martin Wallace board game. I wouldn't mind trying the board game again, because I heard that they did a re-release of it, like a second print, but they changed a lot of stuff. I found it a little cumbersome and a little hard to try to keep track of everything and what did what. And true to, a cult of the new kind of status type people like myself, I only gave it the one shot, so I didn't get enough time to kind of delve into it and really understand how the mechanics really work together. But I heard the second edition is even better. Bernard says, Rado's channel made me aware of the Mind Management Kickstarter. Fantastic. It's where I heard about the idea for an app. Yes. And my gamer group really enjoys the marriage of apps and board games anytime on that app, if ever. Well, assuming we hit the stretch goal of 175, it should come out. The app should come out at the same time that you get the game. You should have, that's my plan, and the goal is that the app will be ready, because we'll still have 8 months or so of the app developer to work on that app once we hit it. So hopefully that should come out at the same time. I'm excited. Yeah, Rado was fantastic. It was one of my happiest days ever when I finally saw his final thoughts, because you're sitting there as a designer is one thing, and then add on to that the extra pressures of being a publisher, and you send out the samples of your game to all these different reviewers, and you pay them all to do this. It's and so you're investing a lot of money all over the place, and you get your first review back, and I got some reviews back, and I was starting to get a feeling like people were liking it. This is pretty cool. And then I get Rado's coming in. I'm like, oh my God, I was so nervous. And I'm sitting there watching, and he pretty much kicks it off by saying, this is my favorite hidden movement game of all time. I'm like, what? I literally had tears in my eyes. It was so happy. And he said the only thing keeping it from perfection was an app, so he could play solo or co-op with his wife, because that's how he'd really like to play. And so that's, I told him, I'm like, well, it's coming. Maybe, hopefully, if we hit this stretch goal. So yeah, I hope it happens. Okay. Bernard said, why are the dry erase tokens limited? They limited 15. Well, one is for production purposes. Like, we don't want to have like 30 of them in there. That's just excessive. And 15 happen to be the right number, where it becomes a fun juggle of what information is good and what information is not needed anymore. And it does actually kind of help you focus on the information you need, because sometimes if you had too many more than that, it's going to get more cluttered feeling to it, and it might help. It might blow people's minds up as far as this is just too messy. Whereas with 15, and if you start needing more than that, you have to process the information on the board and go, you know what? We don't need these tokens over here because he couldn't have got here. So we'll take these up, erase them, and we'll repurpose them over here. So you can move them around until they become confirmed. Once they become a confirmed mental note token, that's what they're called. And that's when you reveal a token and say, hey, when were you here? Oh, step 5, you write a 5 on it and you make it confirmed. And in the final version, there'll be different colors. So you just flip it over. So it's the green side up. It means it's confirmed and whatnot. So that's why they're limited. Hopefully that answers your question, Bernard. Brendan asked, my epiphany about how cool board games could be was pretty young with Scotland Yard. Nice. That's a very famous, one of the first, if not the first, hidden movement game. That's interesting. I'm not sure what the first, if that's not the first. I get to go to next level with your game. It's true. How did other hidden movement games help you figure out your design? That's a good question. I played a few of them, but I haven't played all of them. I played Fear of Dracula and Scotland Yard and Mr. X, or Mr. Jack. How would it? I guess it's just it's again trying to do something new and different in it, and try to figure out how to use information as a resource and as a variable. It was pretty much the key thing to try to figure out what's different, because I know that when we were creating Orphan Black, which I only bring this up because it's another deduction game that we did. It was our first deduction. This is a social deduction game. We, again, had a hard time with that one because we would make games and eventually we realized, well, this is kind of just like Resistance, but with a different this and a different that. Like, it's too much like Resistance, voting for teams and stuff. I said, I just like scrap it. It's too much the same. It's even though you could legally do it, like I wouldn't be proud of it. It would be yucky and stuff like that. So it wasn't until you could come up with some different way of doing it. So the more knowledge you have about the different games in your space, the more you can try to make sure you're differentiated and stand out. Maybe that's a good answer. Garrett said, has the plunging Canadian dollar impacted your Kickstarter? Yeah, the Kickstarter campaign. Yeah, just last week we lost 6 cents on the dollar. And so now my game is a lot cheaper for Americans than it was last week. So that's good news for you Americans out there watching this. You can get this a lot cheaper. But it's definitely bad news for me. So I know that, and this is something else I wanted to get out in this Ask Me Anything. People asking, is there a pledge manager? Can I pledge for $1? And then get into the pledge manager. For those that don't know what this is that after a Kickstarter campaign, there's often some sort of pledge manager where they'll manage your pledge, and that's where you get charged the shipping. And that's how I'm doing it. You don't add the shipping now. It'll be charged later in the pledge manager. And as a point to that, the shipping is literally going to be the price listed in the Kickstarter page. It's not an estimate. That's the price I'm going to charge. So if shipping goes up, then I have to eat that cost. But for my pledge manager, and I'm going to make this more official in an update for all my backers, that yes, there will be a pledge manager. Yes, $1 will get you access to the pledge manager, so you can pay later instead of paying now for this game. But the price will go up because I have to. And then for the deluxe is 89 Canadian. I think it'll go 93, maybe 94, depending if it plunges further, the Canadian dollar. So there will go up a little bit just to make sure I cover my bases there. Thank you for asking that, Garrett. Susie says, the hidden thing sounds super intriguing. Love the sound of the red filter and the time token. Great. I love playing with those when I was a kid, and the invisible pens to find secret messages. Yes, there'll be a lot of secret messages in the game. Some are just for fun and laughs and neat and kind of like cool thematic touches, and some having in-game relevance and benefits. Ooh, hashtag secrets. Dave says, who were some of the other board game designers you most admire, either classic designers or up and coming, and what are the games that first got you interested in the hobby? I'm a big Wolfgang Kramer fan. Tikal and El Grande were two of my favorite games, probably all still are, that I just love. So I've loved a lot of his stuff that he's done, often with Kiesling as well. So that's definitely cool. But then more recently, I'm liking, obviously, Bauza, Antoine Bauza, and Philip Walking Harder, because both of them are doing a lot of different games. And especially Bauza, because he's kind of actually did the almost impossible, and he kind of did, I'm not going to say invent, but he popularized and whatever new mechanics. Like Seven Wonders, drafting wasn't a game until Seven Wonders came out. Like, you had drafting as a precursor to games like with Magic the Gathering, where you would draft with your friends to make a game, to make your deck so that you could play a game of Magic. But he actually turned that into a game with Seven Wonders, and it's no wonder why it's a humongous hit. And then he does now I'm forgetting the name, the one where you hold your cards backwards. What? Why can't I remember that one? I was just playing it. Oh, I can't remember the name of that one. The one where you hold your cards backwards and you can't see your own cards and you have to play them down. They're fireworks. I can't remember the name of that one. But anyways, another one where that was the first time in a long time where I played that game the first time, and I felt like I just had a different experience than I've ever had before. Hanabi. Thank you, Bernard. Hanabi. Yes. So I admire those kind of, and same with Phil Mark Harding doing stuff like Silver and Gold, really cool thematic, roll and write or card and write, and from Imhotep, and all the stuff he does is just, and with his adventure games, like a lot of different things. So I love that. I love that about them, both of those guys. And what are the games that first got me interested in the hobby? First was Magic the Gathering. Sen got me into that big time, and I got into that really hard and lost a lot of money to that game. But I had a lot of fun. And eventually I had to get out because it was like twins at home. Just, you might even hear them in the background throughout this. So my time is more limited. Maybe when they get older, I'll play with them. But other than that, then I started getting into, like, I remember playing Car Wars and D&D back when I was even younger. But then once this whole German board game phase started happening back in the mid 90s, I played Catan and Titan. And what are some of those early ones? Robo Rally, like all these first games. They are the ones that got me into the whole hobby. So yeah, totally into it. Kint's Department H is similarly rich concept. Could be adapted into a murder mystery themed deduction board game. Yes, again with art direction, graphic design by Kint. Yeah, I did have a thought of like maybe I just make this company off the page just the Matt Kint board game company and just do his, because I'd love to do a Super Spy is my next favorite thing that he's ever done. I love Super Spy, but it'd be too much like this in the sense that it's spies and the same kind of feel or vibe to it. So I wouldn't want to make that my second game. And Department H is cool. I also think Bang would be pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the Matt Kint world that I would love. Susie says, "Are you getting to have cake for your birthday? And what is your favorite kind?" Oh, nice. Literally, as we're speaking, I can smell it, the cake, because my wife with the boys are making the cake right now. And I believe it is an angel food with like confetti in it, like little sprinkles in it. With some vanilla icing. So yeah, that'd probably be my favorite. I like the cakes that also have like that pudding layer in it. That's pretty yummy. But we're living in limited means right now. We're trying to it's so funny. Like just even cake mixes, which is what we're doing. We're not making it from scratch. Even it's just cake mix was like limited selection at the grocery stores. It's a weird world we're all living in right now. But thanks, Susie, for the question. Brent's like copying being yucky. Love it. Copying being yucky. I can't remember what I said in reference to that. Okay. Hanabi, thank you. Yes. He also did Takeniko. Yes, of course, which I love. Yes. Bowser did that one. And Joseph says, how do you plan out the stretch goals and when to announce them? The other day you mentioned not wanting to send an update 2 days in a row. Yeah. So there's a couple questions there with the updates. I don't want to barrage the backers with an update every day. Every day seems like it's just leave me alone. It might be bothering people with like another one of these updates. Maybe backed it because it looked cool, and then you just want to forget about it, and then all these updates keep kind of coming into your inbox for the campaign. So that's another risk of having a long campaign, is that you're probably going to have more updates. So I try to limit it at the most frequent would be every other day. And then as far as and it could be longer, but it just felt like throughout this campaign, there was always amazing things to talk about, hitting new stretch goals, announcing other stretch goals. We had secret missions. We had board game. We were playing the board game live, turn by turn every day with the community and the backers. That was amazing. So there was new art to show. There's a lot of, it just felt like there's always something going on. And I'm like, I can't hold back. I have to tell people this stuff. So that's been pretty exciting. But then also you're asking about the stretch goals. I actually did a full video on this, on the how to start a board game company. Well, one of my children is hurt. I can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it from from where you're listening to. There's a bit of an owie in the background. But I did a whole video on how to start a board game company about my stretch goals, showing them how I do it, because the concept behind stretch goals and why we do them, they motivate people to tell other people, hey, you gotta come get this game, because if we get to this level, we get to unlock this thing. We all get a free thing. And exactly what's happening right now with the solo and co-op app stretch goal. It's at 175,000, and that seems like it's there's a chunk to go to get there. We only have 5 days left. And we got a distance to go. So the idea is that people will be telling their friends, or posting on Facebook, or posting in Facebook groups, even like Dice Tower and all these board game Spotlight and all these things, saying, hey, you got to check out this game. Come check it out, because I want to get this stretch goal, because I would really love this app. I'd love to play this game solo or co-op. Please come and check it out. That's the concept. Now, the other aspect from the publisher's perspective of why there's stretch goals, and some of the stretch goals are components, like, hey, you get an app, for example, or an extra component or a new thing. Some of them are upgrades to components. Some they're cardboard. Now we're going to make them a wooden thing. That's cool. Or even a thickness in components. We started at 1.5 millimeter tokens. Now we're up to 2 millimeter tokens. And if you're not a gamer, you'd be like, that's weird. Why is that a thing? It's great for gamers because the thicker quality just feels so much better. Everyone loves the kind of that kind of chunkiness of components, feels really good, and it's noticed right away in reviews when components are great. So that's great, and gamers love it. But B, if this game only, I could only print the minimum order of 1,500 units. If that's what I ended up with, is printing 1,500 units, then the cost per unit is really high. And so then I can't afford to do wooden bits or 2mm components. I can't do it. And so it's only through once I get to different levels where I can, now I can do, 1,700, 1,800, I can do 2,000 units, and 2,100. As I climb up that, my price per unit decreases, which allows me to offer more for that, for your price. So that's kind of how it works and why it works. So yeah. Thank you so much for that, Joseph. Any other rules you follow? I mean, I follow all of Jamie Stegmaier's blog. So if you want to know how to do a Kickstarter, just follow Stegmaier's blog on the Stonemaier website. He literally 300 posts about Kickstarters. He doesn't even do Kickstarters anymore because he's big enough that he doesn't need it. And he finds it more beneficial to not do it now. But he was the king of Kickstarter when he was doing it. His campaigns were knocking it out of the park. Joseph's like, funfetti. Yeah, that's what it's called. And Susie's like, that sounds so sweet. Love the idea that kids are getting involved in making it too. Family rocks. Yay. It's true. They're really good. Joe says it really has been a fun campaign. Really appreciate what you have done. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Joseph. Yeah, it has been fun. The fact that we had a secret mission, because true to this whole mind management idea, we had this idea to do this secret mission where we hid a lot of secret codes everywhere. And I'm talking everywhere. They were hidden on other Kickstarter pages. 3 other campaigns I contacted, more actually, but 3 of them agreed to do it. And they put a secret code, a little image somewhere on their page. One of them did it in their video and hid it in their video. It was unbelievable. Otherwise, they were hidden in reviews, video reviews or print reviews. They would hide this code, and some people got really into this, and it was so fun to participate and watch as they started collecting all this information and putting it together, and then figure out what to do with all this information once they got it. Because then it asked a question that they had to answer. It was great. It was great. I need to take a break here. Thank you so much. And then on top of that, we played a game of mind management on the campaign. Every day we would update and would be, now it's your turn. Now it's our turn. And a lot of really fun engagement and a couple of polls where people got to decide and vote on what they wanted for certain things. The back of this board was a big, huge number of votes. What could be on the back of this should just be another version of this, so you can, duplicate it. What actually won was a new comic from Matt Kint that's going to go on the back of this. And I'll announce something now that's pretty cool for those that are watching. One of the stretch goals that are going to come between what's currently announced, the 150 goal, and 175 is the next one after that, but there's going to be some more stretch goals in there. One of them is the back of the board, of the entire board. Matt's going to do a comic book for that on the back of the board, and it's going to integrate this comic into that. Blows my mind. And that concept will be, this can be read alone as a standalone little story. The back of the board will read alone as a standalone story. If this is integrated into that, it'll be a bit of a different story, and you'll have more context to understand some things. That's Matt Kint right there for you, man. That's pretty exciting. All right, cool. Joseph thought it was his own kid that was screaming in the background. Fair enough. Yeah. Sarah says, thank you for doing this live stream. It was great to be able to ask questions. Yeah, thanks for asking all the questions. Great. Scott Brown says, is there other unique or underused mechanic games you want to design? Oh, that's a great question. Is there any other underused mechanics? It's true that I want to always try to design in a new area. Like if you look at all these games I've designed, there's nothing that really overlaps. Like there's a dexterity game. Rock Paper Wizard uses your fingers, hand gestures. This is a pure area control majority game. This is a drawing game. This has tetrominoes, polyominoes. This is a root connection and pick up and delivery. This is an app with a quick reaction. Like they're all different types of games. So I always like working in a different game entirely. There's a new idea I have for a game that's a Civ game. I've never done a Civ game, and I'm not usually a fan of Civ games. Which, funny enough, I'm not a fan of pick up and deliver games, and that's kind of what this is. And I really usually don't like pick up and deliver, but I kind of found out what I don't like about it and made sure it didn't happen in my game. Usually pick up and deliver is very slow, I find. It's like, I move 3 spaces, now it's your turn. I move 2 more, I pick this thing up, now it's your turn. I move back, it's your turn. I move back, and now I sell it. Feels very boring, so I figure out a way to solve that. Susie says, I agree with Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us on your birthday. Oh, yay. And what's the difference between the two 8-page comic stretch goals. The language and image for each goal is the same. Yeah, I don't have the art for the comics on those stretch goals that have already been achieved. So I didn't have the art for it. Actually, I could update one because Matt did provide the cover. So I probably should update the, that's a good point. He did provide the cover for one of them. The difference is that in the stretch goals we have unlocked a shift package, a sealed shift package component. And then the next stretch goal immediately after that was, hey, you get a comic now on top of that. And it's for that package. So each comic is different. Each comic is unique and goes into that shift package and tells the story about that package. So hopefully that answers it. Just wondering why I can't find junk art anymore in stores in Montreal. There's a 3rd edition. I think they're calling it Junk Art Express. I'm not sure if it literally will say Express on it, but the concept was, and I don't know why all the issues were. So I'm kind of in the dark as you are, but they came out first with this wooden edition. It was a wooden box with wooden pieces. Then they came out with a cardboard box with plastic pieces, and that didn't explode as they thought it was going to be. They thought it was going to jump off the shelf, so they kind of abandoned the plastic one. But what they're going to do is a cardboard box with wooden pieces to bring the price point down. And I'm not sure what their plan is, but that's the plan, is to come up with that. And I was supposed to come out already like last year, and I'm not sure why it hasn't yet. So I think Pretzel Games is just trying to get things in order and get stuff going. I'm not really sure. I wish I had a better answer. I want to know the answer to that as well. Brent said, copying another design or not making your game unique enough being yucky. Yes, and thank you for clarifying that, Brent. I appreciate that a lot. YouTube needs smell-o-vision. Cake right now out of the oven is great. That's right. Sarah's like, really hoping for that solo mode. Me too. I really hope we make it. Everyone needs to encourage your friends to back this game. I would appreciate that. Sounds so cool with the back of the board. It does. Dave's like, what percentage of a Kickstarter production run goes directly to backers, and how many copies do you need to have above and beyond that as adequate stock for retail distribution? That's all great questions and things that I'm going to be learning, because I don't fully know that. I don't have to commit to that for a few months yet. And I have enough months where I'm trying to work on some foreign partners, because if I can get some foreign partners that are interested in making this game, that goes on my same print run, and I just pay for plate changes for the art, for all the stuff that have language on them. But the quantity, the units, I get the benefit of having more units, so the price comes down, and that's good. And I already have one partner for China to make the game in Chinese, so that's going to help with a bunch of units right there. So that's, after that, I'm not sure. Especially with this current climate, what's the future look like, and what does retail look like, and all this stuff, I'm not sure. So I wish I knew. Perfect. And Susie says, if it happens, will you be at Shucks this year? Absolutely, because I live in Vancouver, so it's my favorite convention to go to, because I can sleep in my own bed at night. It's amazing. So yeah, I definitely will be at Shucks this year. Hey, Bernard, I'm in Montreal as well, fellow fan of Jay's and Matt's. Oh, perfect. Brent and Bernard, go hang out when you're allowed to, not now, like later, after this thing's blown over. Are the cardboard playable characters going to have a stretch goal to make them wooden or something like that? I'm not sure. You already said something about this. Oh, thanks, Bram. In the retail version, they're always going to be cardboard, because I have to keep the price down to make it a retail price. The price has to be nice for retail. But the deluxe are wooden. They're already wooden. So there's no cardboard component tokens for characters that are in the deluxe. They're all wood. So that's fantastic. How about PAX Unplugged in Philly? I'm not sure. I had planned on going to Origins and Gen Con this year. That was my plan, and to ECCC, Emerald City Comic Con, which obviously got canceled. So I want to go to those. Above and beyond that, I'm not too sure. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, except for just demoing the sample units I have of the game to kind of keep getting the word out there, I guess. The year after that is going to be more important as a business once I have the games and actually can start selling them. So yeah. Best of luck with the campaign and the company, Jay. Thanks for taking the time to answer these questions. Excited to see the game of the year. Gotta get out. Thanks so much for coming. Architectural foam panels and columns. Susie loves Shucks. I have demoed each year, 2 years for Renegade games. Cool. And last year for Asmodee. Oh, fantastic. And the session was great, Dave says. Thanks for the fun, taking the time to answer questions and share experience. Perfect. I want to look at I never got a chance to even look at the things I wanted to make. I'm just going to look at those right now real quick, make sure I have done everything. Oh, I did want to get this out. Some people have been asking, why is this screen so small? This is the screen that hides the recruiter's information. Why is it so small? Feels like it. The answer is it is only because of the sample. They had a certain kind of die cut, a certain not a die dimensions that it could be, and and they couldn't make it bigger without going custom, which would have drove the price up really high. Maybe I should have paid for that, wouldn't have had this issue, but I didn't, to keep the price down, because it's like very expensive to make sample units. Like it ends up being like $100 per game, and I got 15 of them made to send out to reviewers, so it costs a lot. And so, anyways, it'll be way bigger than this. It's going to be almost twice as tall, way longer. That is 100% already in consideration. A lot of people have been asking about languages. What other languages I support? I definitely want to do a shout out for other people that have knowledge and experience in translating rules. I'm open to French, Spanish, German right now as languages. So if you have experience in that, contact me and we'll see what we can do. Other than that, we talked about that. Fantastic. Yeah, all right. That's the key thing I want to get out. Make sure there's any other last questions. That was great, Jay. Perfect. Hey, Brand, let's keep in touch. Perfect. Positive vibes. We will get past this COVID-19. Yes. Hope to see you all again at Shucks. Thanks again for the stream. Good. Gotta give love to Sen and Matt. I will obviously enjoy your birthday and have some rum. I will. I do enjoy myself a little rum and Diet Coke. So that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hopping on board, and check out the campaign. Tell your friends, tell everybody about the campaign. Let's get to that 175,000 Canadian dollars and get that app for solo and co-op. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.